In 2006, Japan and Cuba faced each other in the World Baseball Classic. Japan won it before a home crowd in Tokyo, and the game's high level of competition was a reminder of something historical. Outside of the United States, no two countries have older baseball traditions. How did that happen? Let's talk about the spread of baseball to Japan and Cuba. The starting point for Japan's relationship to baseball is July 8, 1853. On that date, American warships arrived in Edo Bay, and the fleet's commander issued an ultimatum on behalf of the United States government. We want access to your ports and do not jail or harm our sailors. The person who delivered this message, Commodore Matthew C. Perry, threatened to bombard Edo if his demands were not met. This stunning act shocked the nation's elites, who disagreed on how to respond. Ultimately, Japan signed a humiliating unequal treaty with the United States. But in 1868, Emperor Meiji announced the abolition of Japan's feudal system. He and other leaders wanted to modernize along Western lines. Here's Emperor Meiji in 1888 wearing Western military attire. Meiji's imperial government hired various foreign specialists who helped Japan achieve its goals, including one American from Maine named Horace Wilson. Wilson, a Civil War veteran, served as a professor of English in what would become the University of Tokyo. In 1873, he introduced baseball to undergraduate students, and before long, university students across the country were forming baseball teams. By any criteria, Japan's industrialization process was a success. At the turn of the 20th century, Japan possessed a network of railroads, textile factories, universities, and powerful warships. In 1895, Admiral Ito Sukeyuki led Japan's imperial fleet to victory over China, which resulted in Japan's colonization of Taiwan. In 1895, Japan defeated Imperial Russia and assumed control over the Korean peninsula. Decades later, Japan invaded Manchuria. And to all of these new colonial possessions, Japan brought baseball. Back on the home islands, enthusiasm for what people called yaku, or field ball, surged. In 1915, high schools organized a tournament that enjoys a fan base much like college football in the United States or college basketball's March Madness. It is a single elimination tournament with high drama and passion. All of Japan's regions participate, and the games are televised and closely followed. Around the same time, university baseball clubs were not only playing each other, but going overseas to play American teams. Here you see Waseda University's baseball team on tour in the United States in 1916. In Hawaii and California, Japanese-American immigrants organized teams despite discriminatory policies that excluded Asians from participating in the Pacific Coast League. None other than Babe Ruth visited Japan in 1934. The American slugger thrilled crowds with big home runs and made a big impression on a public increasingly fond of baseball. All of this is to say that a culture of baseball existed before the outbreak of war between the two nations in 1941. 5 years after the Second World War ended, Japanese owners established a professional league that showcases national talent and consistently produces stars. In fact, many exciting Japanese players have come to the United States to play in the major leagues since 1995, as have other East Asian players. Okay, let's turn to the Caribbean. Baseball, or la pelota, the ball, is a game with very deep roots in Cuba. The Lions of Havana, also known as El Habana, participated in the first season of the Cuban Baseball League, founded in 1878. So what explains Cuba's early adoption of baseball? Well, for one, upper-class Cubans like Esteban Bellán encountered baseball at American universities. In fact, Bellán played for the Troy Haymakers in 1872, becoming the first Cuban to play at the major league level. Migration to and from the United States maintained regular contact between the two countries. But a more important reason why baseball caught on so fast in Cuba has to do with the island's level of development. Cuba was much more urban, industrialized, and educated than its Latin neighbors. Rail lines connected Cuban cities by the late 1880s, and that infrastructure spread baseball and facilitated league play. Politically, it's important to know that Cuba was not a free country. Spain ruled the island during the 19th century, although 2 generations of Cuban patriots sought independence, first in 1868 and again in 1895. During these 2 major insurrections, baseball developed a strong association with Cuban nationalism. Bullfighting was Spanish. Baseball was Cuban. In baseball, Cubans saw democratic Republican values such as teamwork, sportsmanship, and group solidarity. In this way, baseball helped define the emerging Cuban nationality in opposition to the Spanish identity. The War for Cuban Independence, which started in 1895, ended abruptly after the U.S. Navy destroyed the Spanish fleet at the Battle of Santiago. In its aftermath, Cuban leaders had to accept limits to their nation's sovereignty. And without going into the history of U.S. imperialism on the island, I'll simply say that Cubans kept playing baseball. This 1936 poster advertises matches between the St. Louis Cardinals and Cuban teams based in Havana. If you're wondering who won, the racially integrated Lions, pictured here, won 2 of their 4 games with St. Louis. Here's Cuba's legendary Martín Dihigo, an elite pitcher and hitter, much like Babe Ruth or Shohei Ohtani, who played professionally in the Negro Leagues and across Latin America during the 1920s and 1930s. In 1938, he put up superhuman numbers in the Mexican League, winning the league's batting title and posting a .9 ERA as a starting pitcher. Famously, Dihigo is the only person who is a member of the American, Cuban, Mexican, Dominican, and Venezuelan Baseball Halls of Fame. Well, by the mid-20th century, Havana had a large stadium for its professional teams, the Estadio Latinoamericano, and many outstanding players across the island. The Cuban Revolution, led by Fidel Castro, triumphed in 1959, and sweeping changes came to the island. Here you see Castro and his commander, Camilo Cienfuegos, on July 24th, 1959. Their jerseys read Barbudos, or the Bearded Ones. On that day, Castro pitched 2 innings of an exhibition game. Professional baseball, however, ended abruptly in 1961 after Castro declared himself a Marxist-Leninist and dissolved the country's professional league. After all, good socialists shouldn't make money from sport. That said, baseball stayed popular. Fidel Castro would even play ball with locals on tours across the island, such as this one in 1971. And moving forward, the Communist Party of Cuba focused on winning international competitions. And the nation consistently achieves its goals. However, the government's refusal to allow its talented ball players to sign lucrative professional contracts abroad led to a wave of defections after 1995. Okay, let's review a few patterns. First, imperialism played a role spreading baseball to different parts of the world. Second, Japan and Cuba had ties to the United States through trade, immigration, and education. Third, nationalism helps explain why Japan and Cuba play baseball. Fourth, both countries had the infrastructure for tournaments and professional leagues early in the 20th century. And finally, I will say that baseball, like any number of things, expresses national character. Japanese pitching and batting rhythms differ from those of players born in the United States. Fan behavior varies from country to country. And those variations make the game fun. If you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching.